Hello, and welcome to this example on calculating profit, markup, selling price, and rate of markup. The problem we're solving is the following one. Caleb, a florist, buys and sells flowers at his store. He purchases roses at $1.75 each, has operating expenses of 18% on cost, and has profits of 45% on cost. Calculate the following. First, the desired profit per rose. Second, the amount of markup. Third, the selling price. And fourth, the rate of markup on selling price. We need to round answers to the nearest cent. The problem we're presented with contains various variables. We have the cost, markup, price, operating expenses, net profit, and the rate of markup on selling price. The cost of a rose is the amount paid by Caleb after both trade discounts and cash discounts. The cost of a product is denoted by the letter C for cost. So here we have C equals 1.75. The amount of markup, also known as margin or gross profit, is the difference between the selling price and the cost of the product. The markup, and we write MU, equals P for price minus cost. Now, operating expenses, also known as overhead expenses, include expenses such as salary, rent, utilities, insurance, advertising, etc., that are necessary to operate a business. We have that operating expenses in this example correspond to 18% of the cost. So we have operating expenses equals 0.18 times C. We're going to find operating expenses shortly. Now, net profit, also known as profit, is the amount of profit that is necessary to stay in the business. Net profit is denoted by PFT and is obtained by subtracting all the operating expenses from the markup. So we have MU minus OE. And according to this problem, the profit corresponds to 45% of the cost. So we have PFT equals 0.45 times C. We're going to compute profit soon. Now finally, the rate of markup is a ratio based on the selling price. That's the rate of markup on selling price. And we will provide a formula when we need to compute it. Now, in examining the retail pricing strategy for a company, the various components that make up the retail price, like price, cost, markup, overhead expenses, and profit, on a per unit basis need to be analyzed. And to analyze those components, we like to use a table called the price structure table. So let's draw here a table called the price structure table. And this table has two columns. We'll talk about those columns soon. And the leftmost column contains components that make up the retail price. So we have P, C, MU, OE, and profit. Now, when we take P minus C, we get MU. When we take MU minus OE, we get profit. Now, let me leave some space here. Let me transfer this a little bit down. There is enough space for names of columns, labels for columns that we will introduce shortly. Now, the first column that we write here represents the dollar value of each component. Here we have the amount of the corresponding component in dollars. And based on the information provided, C equals 1.75. So here we write 1.75. Now the second column represents the amount as a percent of the cost. Here we have the amount as a percent of the cost because everything we were told about is cost-based. We have that operating expenses are 18% of the cost. So here we write 18, meaning that to compute OE, we do 18% of C. And then profit is 45% of the cost. And the cost is 100% of the cost. This table is a useful tool for solving problems as it will allow us to organize information provided. It already allowed us to do that. And easily identify the values to be that need to be calculated. So let's see. According to what we have right here, profit comes from subtracting MU and OE, markup and overhead expenses. So the amount as a percent, the amount of MU as a percent, minus 18 should be 45. So here we should write a 63. Because when we add 18 and 45, we get 63. So markup is 63% of the cost based on this equation right here. There we have that. We inferred that markup is 63% of the cost because profit is 45% of the cost and overhead expenses are 18% of the cost. Okay. Something else we can infer from the information that was given is that price should be 163% of the cost because 163 minus 100 gives us 63%. And we know that markup is price minus cost. So when we subtract the percentages right here, we get 63. So we need to write a 163% as the price, the rate of the price of the percent that the price represents with respect to cost. Okay. Now, based on all those percentages, we can find corresponding amounts. Now, instead of finding all amounts, let's start solving part A of this problem. Part A is about finding the desired profit per rows. Profit is given by the 45% of cost. We can write profit as the 45% of cost, and cost is 1.75. So we have 0.45 times 1.75. When we compute that product, we obtain the number 0.7875, which can be approximated by 0.79. So the desired profit is approximately equal to $0.79. Here in the table, we record 0.79. Okay. Part B requires us to find the amount of markup. The amount of markup is 63% of the cost, and the cost is 1.75. Then markup is given by 63%, 0.63 times 1.75. When we compute this number, we obtain 2.8525. Sorry, that's not the number we get. The number we get is a lot smaller than that. We get the value 1.1025. That's approximately equal to 1.1. So the amount of markup is approximately equal to 1.1. Here we can write 1.1. And there we have the amount of markup. Now for part C, we need to compute the selling price of the rose. And the selling price of the rose is 163% of the cost. So we compute 1.63 times 1.75. And that's when we get the 2-point-something, 0.8525. And that's about 2.85. Here we have 2.85. That's what we get. Notice that when we do 2.85 minus 1.75, we obtained a 1.1. That should be true because markup is price minus cost. Okay. Finally, we need to find the rate of markup on the selling price. And to compute that, we do MU divided by P times 100%. We're doing MU, and that is 63% of the cost divided by P, and P is 163% of the cost multiplied by 100. And so the cost, we get 0.63 divided by 1.63 times 100. This number is equal to 38.650306 and so on. We can round these off to 38.65%. So the rate of markup on the selling price is about 38.65%. And that's the end of this problem.